Hi, everyone. My lecture this week is a comparative study on William Bell Riley and Harry Emerson Fosdick, traditionalism versus modernism in the early 20th century, American Christianity. The struggle between the traditionalist and the modernist is a story that transcends generations. I remember my mother sitting me down at the dining room table and reading the new lyrics to my System of a Down CD out loud to me. She was mortified by the violent metaphors and sacrilegious expressions, and as I enter my fourth decade of life, I understand where she came from. Thankfully, I grew out of my angry emo phase, but my mother and I still have our differences that are separated by our almost half a century age gap. So when I researched Harry Emerson Fosdick and William Bell Riley for my third discussion, I could not help but feel like this story was too cliche. In fact, this was the running theme throughout all of the Roaring Twenties. Why is that? Traditionalist mindset versus modern mindset did not begin with the 1920s, but this is where historians chose to emphasize this saga. It does make relative sense, as so many aspects of life were evolved around this theme. You have Victorian versus flapper, wet versus dry, gospel versus jazz, and fundamentalist versus modernist. Most of these conflicts were rooted in the people who held tight to their faith and those who wanted to rebel or break free. William Bell Riley was the former, a traditionalist raised in a strictly Baptist home who dutifully waited until he was 17 before professing his faith and participating in the rite of baptism. On the other side of the spectrum, Harry Emerson Fosdick was raised in a loosely religious home with an intellectual father and a mentally depressed mother. Fosdick was baptized at the age of 7 in the Baptist faith, and like his mother, he suffered from depression. He actually attempted suicide while in college, and this event further inspired his Christian calling. While Riley remained true to his traditional Baptist values, such as dispensational premillennialism, infallibility of the Bible, and the imminent return of Jesus, Fosdick followed a different path. Not only did he break barriers by being a Baptist preacher behind a Presbyterian pulpit, but he also supported the use of birth control and advocated for divorce in special circumstances. Surprisingly, he still held firm to the opposition to New Age music, movies, and literature that influenced societal impropriety and sexual promiscuity. He lamented the rebelliousness of the younger generation and warned parishioners that change had to occur to reach the morally declining youth. Seen here is an article in the New York Times, May 24th, 1925. The photo is of hundreds of adults receiving full immersion baptism. Fosdick raised a stir among the traditionalists by speaking out against compulsory baptisms. How dare he allow just any old Christian into a Baptist church? People such as Riley would wail. Riley wasn't always so harsh on Fosdick. In a previous issue of the Christian Fundamentalist, Riley and his associate commented on Fosdick's newly acquired fame and expressed hope that he would, quote, return to the fold of fundamentalism. Riley received a letter to the editor refuting his earlier claim and published it in the next serial. The letter came from, according to Riley, a, quote, professional man in the West. This man had met Fosdick in his early years and sincerely doubted his claims of conversion and that he had a determined opposition to the gospel. He supported his argument by recalling a time when Fosdick and another pastor spoke harshly against Wilbur Chapman, a traditionalist itinerant preacher, and convinced their congregations to boycott his meetings. Okay, so maybe Riley was a little harsh for printing the letter. Both figures epitomize a divide in American Christianity during the 20th century, leaving enduring debates over faith, culture, and modernity. But even according to the newspapers like New York Times, what Fosdick and Riley were doing wasn't anything revolutionary. This debate began before Fosdick and Riley, and it has continued long after their deaths. However, these two men did leave their mark on religion. Riley's efforts contributed to the later evangelical fundamentalist movements through his building of traditional institutions in the Midwest and the orchestration of the Scopes monkey trial. He laid the groundwork for the later rise of the evangelical movement. Fosdick shaped the trajectory of liberal Protestantism and mainline churches. He inspired many Protestant churches to embrace a liberal stance on controversial issues, such as interfaith dialogue, climate change, and human rights. Hey, there will still be Facebook banter between the boomers and the woke Gen Z, but it's my hope that recognizing this never-ending cycle through the generations, we might attempt to sympathize with each other. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.